Alright, my name is Sean Fallon, and you're listening to episode 15, The West Wing. Welcome to From First to Last. Where everybody knows. Hello again and welcome again. My name is Sean Fallon. This is From First to Last. Today we have a very special guest. Let me please welcome the President of the United States, Sheila. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good. What TV show did you want to talk about today?
The West Wing.
The West Wing, excellent. I think this is definitely a good one for, even though we're recording this in, last day of July, just after the Republican and Democratic conventions, this won't, people will actually be able to download this because of how slow the turnaround is from recording to releasing. Just before the actual election happens. So people will be very politically minded.
Perfect.
So people will be ready. What's your experience with The West Wing?
Well, I never watched it when it was first on. My sister got really big into it and kind of introduced it to me when I was on spring break one year. And I spent my entire spring break just watching West Wing because it was awesome. So, yeah. And then I became obsessed, and now I own all the seasons, and I have to watch it at least once a year. So.
Wow. From beginning to end?
Yes. Even though the ending, isn't as good as the start.
Yeah, that's impressive. That is good. I always hear, I have a friend who reads The Lord of the Rings every year. He has to. I'm like, just read it once and then wait a bit and then come back. But no, I think that's cool. Go from the first to last every year.
Yeah,
so you probably know this.
With The Lord of the Rings, I don't really follow that because I think they're terribly boring books.
Oh my god, me too. I read them just before the movies came out, and my friend, this same guy who was obsessed with them, he was like, what do you think? I'm like, they were really, really dry. Just a joke or two would have been great.
And it's like, okay, they're walking. They're walking again. Yep,
That's
okay.
Which works on screen, but not there's only so many descriptors, so many verbs for walking.
Yeah, and it works great with the movies because they're so pretty.
Yeah, exactly, because it's New Zealand. It's my neck of the woods.
Right.
Now, for this, obviously you rewatched the first episode. What did you think of the first episode, rewatching it?
It's one of my favorite episodes. I love it so much.
Yeah.
It's a great introduction to every single character. You like them all, or at least think they're all quirky and fun. It's just like the perfect introduction to everybody you want to know.
Yeah, that's it. I think the first 5 minutes, just very snap character stuff, obviously you instantly get to meet Sam and get Sam's character in a couple of seconds. Toby being a dick on the plane. Josh asleep at his desk.
Oh, Toby's my favorite.
Oh, okay.
I love him.
I think he gets, that first episode, he gets a lot of really good moments of, that intro of him being on the plane, and then he just sort of he's just in the sides for most of it, just sort of throwing out comments.
Yeah, he's always in the back just giving you the sarcastic, intelligent barbs. I love it.
Yeah, that's it. Just smartest man in the room and wants everyone to know. That's very good. And I do. I completely agree. I mean, I've watched this episode a couple of times. It's one that I've gone back to, and it's pretty much flawless, isn't it?
Yeah.
As an intro, as just a very entertaining 45 minutes. It's like I was saying, I've written in my notes, the pace of it is just deadly. It's just as soon as it starts, it's just sprinting to get done. To show how chaotic their lives are working in the White House, they really just hit the ground running. A lot of walk and talks, a lot of people talking at the same time. Everyone talks very fast. Oh no, it's fantastic.
Yeah, when I was watching it again last night, I was watching it and I saw Josh and Mandy sit down at a diner to eat, and you never see that in that show anymore, or at all. You see maybe a couple of restaurant scenes, but everybody's always eating in their office or whatever.
Yeah. CJ always had those plastic salads. I remember that. She always had a salad in a plastic box, and that was just it would just be a mouthful of lettuce. What are we going to do about Serbia? Just always straight into it. I thought as well they do well to just drop you right in the center You know, it's not like, oh, this is the first day of Bartlett's
Yeah.
administration. It's like a year in,
Hmm.
and you're dropped right in the center of like quite a small crisis. You know, Josh's thing, but it's enough to sort of give you an idea of what's what.
Yeah, and the more amusing side is the president running into the tree, of course.
Yeah. So you get that idea of like, okay, well, yeah. So it's like the scales of crises from like
Crises? There you go.
crises from like the Cuban thing, Josh's thing, and the president riding into the tree. It's like, okay, these are sort of like an idea of the things they would have to deal with in the West Wing. Oh,
Yeah.
and giving the kids a tour of the school, tour of the White House and stuff like that.
Poor Sam.
Awesome.
I couldn't do that.
No, same, no idea. And I was a teacher for like 10 years, so that
Well,
was
then
my
you
job.
probably could have faked it pretty well.
That's true. I could have got by on just like teacher charm when that was a thing.
Yeah.
Who would you say watching this episode is the main character of this show? Just from this episode in a vacuum.
Oh,
Like for me, I felt like it was very not very clear, but there was just a one character and I thought, okay, I think he's supposed to be the main character. Like, and obviously it is an ensemble, and as the show went on, the main character sort of shifted and changed episode by
yeah.
episode or
I
season
was
by
gonna say
season.
each episode seemed to focus on something different, so I don't know. Oh goodness, I don't know.
See, I was just sort of when I was watching it, I thought it was Sam. I thought, okay, so maybe this is Rob Lowe's show.
It looked
Like,
kind of like they wanted him to be, like they were kind of
yeah.
angling that way, but they didn't quite get there.
No, and I think that is eventually why. Well, I think that's why Rob Lowe leaves eventually,
Yeah.
because they do sort of. He has the most. He has the sort of rom com plots. You know, he has the two rom com plots. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, he embarrasses himself in front of his boss's daughter, who he eventually. I think he eventually dates Mallory.
They at least went on a date. I
Yeah.
don't think they ever actually got together.
Okay. And then obviously he has the thing of accidentally sleeping with the escort, and it's like, okay, this is clear. Like he isn't really part of the main sort of political plots where the others are very into it. He's sort of more, I guess, grounded. You know, it's sort of like, okay, this is a character we can understand. Like we know this sort of archetype. He's young, he's good looking. Because Rob Lowe is cute as shit in this.
Oh, don't you love that in the very first, like, 5 minutes? He's, like, talking to his friend and he goes, I can never tell if they're looking or not. You know if they're looking.
Yeah. Come on,
You're
come
Rob
on.
Lowe. You know if they're looking.
Yeah, you're late '90s Rob Lowe. You've got your head together. Don't be like that.
Yeah. You know they're
Um,
looking. It's not even if they're looking. They are looking.
It's ridiculous. Don't. Yeah. Don't bullshit on bullshit to Rob Lowe. Yeah, and I think he has. I think because I think the thing with him is for me, my favorite character was always Josh.
Oh,
I
yeah.
always thought, for me that's what made like the later seasons. Because this show, obviously, the first four are brilliant, and then I think 5 and 6 is where the sort of flab sets in, and I really enjoyed 7 when the sort of election campaign kicks into high gear.
It's really fun to watch in an election year.
Yeah, oh, very much so. I mean, well, my thing with The West Wing was I watched it when I lived in Thailand, and I sort of had no interest in it because, you know, I being English and not really understanding American politics, and there was no real. You know, it was very popular, but it was sort of popular with a certain crowd, I guess. There were like people who in England who watched it to seem clever, which would be right up my alley because that's what I do. But so I ended up watching it in Thailand and bought like the first box set and watched it and absolutely loved it. And it's weird because the day I finished watching it was the day Hillary announced that she was running in 2008.
Oh, wow.
So I literally I didn't even have time to have like West Wing withdrawal symptoms because I sort of finished the fictional one and jumped straight into the real one. And this show started my love affair of American politics because I absolutely love it. Like the US election is, as my wife says, it's my jam. I love it so much. Like, and even now, while it's completely insane, I just watch all of it. And the West Wing is responsible for that. The West Wing is responsible for the fact that I know nothing about English politics because I was like, fuck it, that is what it is. Like this American stuff, that's where the fun is.
It must be, if you're more removed from it, it's more fascinating.
Yeah, that's true. It's sort of like I'm watching from afar, just like
Yeah.
smoking a pipe, like
You don't
fascinating.
actually have a dog in this race.
No, that's it exactly. I'm just sort of I've had a bit of a weird one recently because because I've moved to Australia and I've only been here for like 2 years, I can't vote in this election. I obviously can't vote in the US election, and it feels disingenuous to vote in the UK election. So I'm just sort of sitting there, just throwing rocks from afar because I'm just like, well, I can't vote, so whatever.
So you
I'm
just
out
get
of
to
this.
sit back and bitch about everybody.
Yeah, that's it. I'm just sort of like
Sounds great.
offering my expert opinion. Just like, well, if you ask me,
Yeah, if it were me in this situation.
yeah, if I could vote, if I hadn't removed myself from society. But yeah, no, I mean, I never really like. I had friends who tried to watch the show and they thought it was boring. They were like, "Oh, it's just people talking about paperwork and memos," and it's like,
Oh
"No, you
no.
get into it. It's very, very good." It's I think yeah, I think this one like this episode is perfect in the sense as well that like there's a clear villain. Like you've got Mary.
Oh, Mary Marsh.
Yeah, and she's just got she's hatchet faced and
Oh, and yeah,
she's just a villain.
that actress is just perfect.
Yeah,
She did that
like
so well. You hate her.
yeah, that's it. Like it's interesting because because the show will, as it goes on, try and humanize a lot of sort of because obviously this show was on during the Bush administration. This was a
At
point
the very
where
tail end, yeah.
yeah, so like worldwide, people were sort of looking at America and sort of shaking their heads of like, oh, how have you put this guy in power? Everything he says is insane. And then on TV, you've got like, and I don't know if this how conscious Sorkin was of this. I assume very like Bartlett is super clever,
Oh
like
yeah.
too clever, and also he's also like about as religious as Bush was or Bush portrayed himself, but it's presented in a way of like, oh no, his religious beliefs guide his morals, but they don't make him crazy. I don't
Yeah,
know.
he can be a moral leader, but he doesn't push his religion on everybody else.
That's it
Yeah,
exactly.
which
Which
is
I
really
think
hard to distinguish the two. So I want Bartlett as a president.
that's it. I mean, I think it would have been interesting if they tried to do this show while Obama was in power, or while Obama's still in power. It would have seemed more like liberal propaganda of like, oh, this is it'd be liberal. Whereas
Yeah,
you had the thing of like Bush is in power, things are a bit weird and very conservative, but you've got this antidote of like, well, this is what could have been. This is the opposite of that. You're like, oh, okay, this is really cool. This fantasy world, much better.
hmm
Loving this, which yeah, I think is possibly why it was so popular, and also so popular because this is Sorkin at top Sorkin.
Oh yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Um,
This is probably what made me the huge Sorkin fan I am now. I mean, it's like I liked his other stuff before, but this is
mm.
just like, oh, I fell in love.
Yeah, no, because he's great. He's got drama, he's got comedy, and I don't think there's anyone else who can write a monologue as good as he can.
Oh no.
Like he nails those like big presidential speeches. Which yeah, this episode. What's your favorite part of this episode?
Oh
What
God,
part?
it's there's a lot. But
Okay.
I like the end when Mary Marsh is getting her ass spanked again.
Yeah,
That's
that
great.
is
And
very
then
satisfying.
Bartlett comes in and even like quoting, the Bible.
Yeah. Oh,
So
it's so
it's
baller.
exactly what a president wants to be saying when he walks into a room. It's just
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, I think that is very good that they again like very clever writing. They keep Bartlett in the background for it's a 45-minute thing. They keep him in the background for like the first say 37 minutes,
hmm
and you're like, okay, it's about the West Wing, it's about the staff. Let's meet all them first, and then we'll bring POTUS in at the end, which I
Yeah.
think is very clever because if he's in at the start, he's the main character. You can't escape that. But I think having him come in at the end, obviously, in his first line of dialogue is, "Well, I am the
I'm
Lord your God."
Yes, I am the Lord your God. Thou shalt worship no God before me.
That's so
Like,
good.
yeah, I want to walk into a room and just announce that.
Yeah, just be ready. Just have context. Like he must have like he was either waiting outside until someone said something he could react to, or he's just as he's walked in, she's like someone said, "What's the first commandment?" And he's been like, "Oh, brilliant! Like I've got to get to the doors."
Let me hop on my cane a little faster.
Yeah, chit chit chit. I'm the Lord thy God. Um,
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it is, and I think like that whole, we're saying about how snappy the character work is early on, like CJ on the treadmill. So you get the sense of like she's a bit of a klutz, but she's still very cool. And then Leo, just walking through the West Wing, knows everyone's name, completely in charge.
Yeah, and
Just
always has the zingers.
yeah, just
Leo had
zingers
some
and
best lines in the whole episode. So.
yeah, no, very much so. I mean, I think obviously we all like John Spencer. I do miss John Spencer.
Oh yeah.
Like he looks as though the way he acts, he's been chief of staff for 1,000 years.
Hmm.
He's always been chief of staff for every single president. Like he's so grizzled and he's just seen everything and everyone knows him and respects him. And I think that Leo was such a good character who just sort of just always maintained. I'm trying to like he just maintained order and was just always there, just being great and having the zingers and having the drama,
Yeah.
which is good. Oh yeah, sorry. So in terms of like snappy character work, to have like Martin Sheen come out and crush those like super conservative religious people, and he's sort of like he's a bit cuddly, then he's grizzly, and he jumps from between like very soft and like very humble, and then he's very angry, and he does it on a dime. Like oh okay, this guy, I get what this is. This is why he's so charming.
Yeah.
If he's done this on the campaign trail and been like, oh, I'm just a humble man from Manchester, New Hampshire, little glare. But at the same time, he's been in a debate and he's crushed someone in the center of his hand. Like, it's very good.
Yes.
It's excellent.
He's the perfect president. Except for,
He is.
when he lies about his health and whatever.
Yeah, but yeah, that's very true. Yeah,
You're not
but
supposed to do that.
No, definitely not. That's probably treason. Yeah, see if I have anything else about this first episode in my notes. Yeah, I mean, I just kind of sort of got that thing of like the final 10 minutes from the very start of the meeting until the end is just a masterclass. Just it builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. Every character gets something to do. You introduce obviously the major element of the show, the president, and do it really well. And yeah, I mean, like that sort of like Sorkian monologue because Bartlett sort of comes out and then just speaks solidly, and then they move into the Oval Office, and then he does it again. He tells the story about the magic tomato and then what the Cubans are doing.
Yeah.
And it's just like monologue on monologue, which I think is like there was one definitely like in this show that I absolutely loved was the Bartlett monologue when he's talking to like the episodes later the super conservative radio host.
Oh yes.
And he quotes the Bible.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites as well.
Yeah,
I just like it when he smacks people, I think.
Yeah, because he delivers like very, very good smackdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Like
you're really not going to come back from that one.
Yeah, that's it. He is like he's so clever and he's just well, that's the thing, isn't it? I think that whole sequence is someone keeps asking him how he beat his competitor to win.
Yeah.
To win the presidency, and then in the end, after he's given her the smackdown, he's like, "That's how I won." Because I fuck people up.
Yeah. Did you take notes? You should have taken notes.
Yeah, that's it. Like, yeah, this is why I'm president. This is why everyone has to stand up when I walk in the room. But yeah, no, fantastic. And to sort of compare this with the final episode, like where this one, the pace is absolutely deadly. To move slightly into the final episode, that one, the pace is just nothing. It's just like, things just... It's very much, with the last episode, I feel like it's very much an epilogue. Everything's finished. Like, what did you think of the last episode watching it for this?
Well, when I was watching it last night, I was watching again, and then, it was almost over, and I'm like going, did anything actually happen?
Yeah.
then
That's
it's like I had to think back, and I'm like, okay, yeah, some things happened, but they just kind of happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of hard to take any notes or anything on.
Yeah, same. Like I ended up sort of, I don't know, I didn't really take loads, and I think the thing, like a lot of my stuff with the last episode was trying to remember what had come before. I was like, oh yeah, so they've been elected, but then obviously Leo's dead and this and this. And I guess it is that thing of the show the episode sort of starts and they say, oh, this is your schedule for the day. And they sort of then just tell you what's going to happen in the episode. And then, like you say, those things just happen. Like, no one gets held up in traffic. There's no protests. No one forgets their speech. It's just sort of like, you're going to go out, you're going to do this, and then they just do it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, like it's very much like the show has finished, and then just sort of. I mean, I get it as an ending. Like, I mean, you think you've got to end it, I guess, on the inauguration of the next president, and there is almost a sense of like the show that could have been the end of the season instead of the series, and then the show starts again in season 8, and it's the Santos administration, but
Yeah.
probably not.
No, that seems like it's too much.
Yeah, that you're going to start retreading a lot of old ground.
Yeah, there's no way you're going to be able to avoid going through over all sorts of situations again. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I was laughing. Like, there's a point where someone says, after the 8 tumultuous years of the Bartlett administration, it's like, yeah, they were pretty tumultuous. Like,
Go
he was
figure.
ill and, yeah, got shot. His daughter got kidnapped.
Hmm.
He left the presidency and put John Goodman in charge.
Well, and if you're going to put someone in charge, I mean, come on.
True. I mean, I would have watched a season of this show with like John Goodman's super Republican president in the West Wing. I'd have taken that for a
Oh,
bit.
oh
That'd been
boy.
pretty
I
cool.
think I probably would have screamed at my television too much.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, it's interesting, I guess, with this show because I mean, it ran for 156 episodes, ran from 99 to 2006,
Yeah.
and I think it's definitely one of those shows that, kind of looking back, if they had said, if they'd set us like an end date straight away and said, right, we'll do it from we'll do it from, okay, he's in power. We'll have a couple of seasons just about being in power, and then we'll have re-election, and then when he gets re-elected, that'll be it. Because that pretty much is the show sort of goes off the boil once he's been re-elected, and because I think Sorkin's last episode is the end of season 4 where Zoe gets kidnapped, and that's it. That
Yeah.
should have been the end because the next season I don't think anything happens, and the next season I don't think anything happens, and then it's election. Like
Well, I wouldn't say nothing happens in season 5 just because Jason Isaacs shows up.
Hmm. Ah, yes, Jason Isaacs does show up. Yeah, that's pretty good.
You
Always
can
happy
never
when Isaacs.
you can never disregard Jason Isaacs.
Yeah, that is very true. I'm glad they resisted the urge to do like a clip show or anything like that.
Oh yeah.
Like I was trying to, like, when me and Austin Shin were talking about the X Files, and that final episode is very much like this is what happened previously, and it's all flashbacks and clips and stuff like that, and it's really painful.
Oh boy.
I think as well, like I'm trying to sort of formulate this as with each show that I do. I think there are like different kinds of endings. Like you do have like a story ending or a character ending or an emotional ending, and sort of with the West Wing, this is an ending, but sort of like you say, it's very nah. It's unnecessary. Like it's not a. It's a good episode because you like the characters,
Yeah.
but it's not a great ending by any means. It does limp to the finish. It does sort of, you know,
Yeah. It
there aren't
really.
even any like
Yeah. No, nothing happens. There's just no great lines or anything. It's just there.
just there, yeah. Which is, I mean, it's weird because when John Spencer died and they had to sort of like rewrite the show on the fly, there was this weird thing. Like I read an interview with Thomas. No, is it Thomas Schlam or whatever his name is?
Tommy
Whoever
Shalami.
that's it, Tommy Shalami. When they were like the showrunner, and he said like, oh, the original plan was for Alan Alda to win the election, and the Republicans would have got in. Like that's not true. No way, because that would have made no sense. Like there was still like 5 episodes to go, and it would have just been like I can't imagine this ending being the same if they were all getting kicked out the West Wing and Alan Alda was moving in. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. That seems insane, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I think he was just lying, which is weird.
Oh, we
Like
had these
it's
great different plans.
yeah. That seems so odd. But I mean, it is actually quite incredible that like with when John Spencer did die, like how they sort of managed to turn it around and make it part of the plot. Like when I was watching that last night, and they give Bartlett the Bartlett for America napkin, and for a moment I was like, wait. Leo actually, like John Spencer did die like unexpectedly. It wasn't like the character died and then the actor died later,
Right.
because it almost seems as though that was good enough to have been written. You know what I mean? Like they had a contingency plan, or they were already planning to kill Leo off, and this was just an unfortunate coincidence, which
Well,
is a bit weird.
Did John Spencer have like heart troubles and stuff before he died?
Well, he was same as Leo. He was a recovering alcoholic,
Okay.
um, and I think I mean because that was really weird. Because when I watched the show, John Spencer had already died. Like I watched it when the whole thing was finished, and obviously there is an episode where Leo has he has a heart attack
Right, when they're up
first.
at Camp David.
Yeah, and I remember watching the episode and he had the heart attack, and I was like, wait a minute, John Spencer. John Spencer doesn't die here. It's like, well, no, of course he doesn't die here. I'm not. They didn't film him dying.
Yeah. So
You
they
know,
that
'cause
makes me wonder if they did plan to kill him anyway.
yeah, like because I don't know, it just fits too well. You know,
Yeah.
because there's no, there's no point where I feel as though if there'd been a thing where like 2 episodes after he died, they announced who the vice president was and they brought in some character actor and he had a little plot line of his own and like oh okay they've just given him Leo's plot line and just changed the names. But there's just the vice president doesn't come into it. They don't even tell you who the vice president is. I don't think.
Well, they tell you who they want to get confirmed, but they haven't done it yet. So.
Yeah. So they just completely drop all that because obviously, I mean, it's super sad that John Spencer died, but also I would have loved to see Leo as vice president. That would
Oh
have been
yeah.
amazing. Yeah, that would have been really cool. But it is fascinating, like because me and Sean from No Totally were talking about when Phil Hartman died, and that happened between seasons. So they had like one episode when they came back where they did like a big goodbye to him, and then they just replaced his character, and the show carried on. Whereas obviously this one, he died in the middle, a crucial part of the plot, like
Hmm.
because obviously it's the election season and he's vice president,
Yeah.
and but yeah, managed to make it into a thing that's like you say seemed planned, which is very weird.
Yeah.
Who
Maybe they're
knows?
just that good.
Maybe they're just that good. Like maybe they should have been that good earlier.
Yeah.
I think it very interesting. Toby doesn't appear at all. Like I think Schiff had left the show at this point.
I think for the most part, he still kind of showed up every now and then
Yeah,
in random episodes. But yeah, he was under indictment anyway. So.
yeah. It's well, it's weird. I think at the time I was quite pissed off of him because I was like, come on, Toby's such a good character. Why are you leaving the show? But then at the same time, I was also like, yeah, but I don't think like Toby sort of just ran out of plot lines after a while. I think
Well, it's like everybody left the West Wing to go work on campaigns and such, and he was just kind of there twiddling his thumbs. So.
yeah, I mean that was the thing. I remember that just for a lot of the seventh season where you'd go back to the West Wing and it would just be like CJ and Bartlett and
Hmm.
then Joshua Malina's character and Mary McCormack. And you're like, yeah, this doesn't matter anymore. You
Yeah.
need to get CJ on the campaign or something or do it because you've got great actors and actresses who are just going to waste. But I think it is like you say, it's a bit of a juggling act because there's only so many plots you can do with these characters before it gets ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. One thing, talking about the awards season and talking about Emmys. How many Emmys did Martin Sheen win for this show?
Oh, I don't know.
Zero.
Zero, really?
Yes.
I shouldn't be
Okay,
surprised by that, but he's so incredible.
he is, and yeah, he got nominated. I think he got nominated every single year.
I will
Never
watch like
won.
anything he does now.
Oh yeah, Martin Sheen's amazing. Like he's
Yeah.
amazing in obviously old stuff, but he's amazing in like The Departed.
Oh yeah.
And,
Everybody's
uh,
amazing in that movie.
true. That's yeah. Even yeah, like Mark Wahlberg is even like
I
really good in that.
know.
And he's usually just trash. Also, Badlands, Apocalypse Now. Martin Sheen does the work. Okay, in sticking with this Emmys thing, so he got nominated all the time, never got the award. This show is it's some ridiculous like there was one year where I think lead actress, lead actor, supporting. They had like 2 or 3 actors in every single category. They just pretty much dominated it. So, which character or which actor won the most Emmys for this show?
Allison Janney.
Alison Janney. So I've got here. I think she won it 5 times or 4 times. I think she won it twice for supporting and twice for lead.
She's an awards magnet.
She's pretty cool. Oh yeah, because she won for. Did she win for Mom?
Yeah.
Recently, I think. Yeah. So she won 5 or 4. I don't know why I've written 5 and I thought it was 4, but I can't remember. Alan Alda won it. John Spencer won it. Schiff won it. Bradley Whitford won it, and Stockard Channing
Really?
all got Yep, all got the Emmy. But Martin Sheen, President Jed Bartlett, did not.
The glue that holds it together.
That's it. So I think it was one of those things, like with Mad Men. Like John Hamm got nominated every single year, but didn't win it until Mad Men had finished. Like it was almost as though they were just waiting for the show to finish and then they'd give it to him. And like, but at the same time, Bryan Cranston won it 4 times for Breaking Bad.
Yeah, well,
Uh,
if you're against Bryan Cranston.
True. I mean, yeah, that's true. Um, but I think poor Martin Sheen, they were probably just thinking to themselves, yeah, that's great. He'll just continue doing the work, and we'll drop it on him later. And then the show had sort of gone off the boil and gone a bit crap, and they were like, well, now we'll give it to someone else. I can't remember who beat him each time. Like, I think Michael Chiklis did it for The Shield, and what's his name for Friday Night Lights and all that. And you think he just was always, it was like, oh, you're president. That's award enough.
Well, he gets to play a pretty damn cool character. So.
He does, and it is an interesting thing. I think he's like one of the like this. He's an actor who's played tons of presidents. Like he played JFK, and he played one in Gettysburg, and he played Robert Kennedy, and all that. Like he's just someone who has that gravitas to just always be the president.
Hmm. I love how he like went from playing the chief of staff in American President, though, to play.
How good is American President?
Oh, I love it.
Mm.
Going back to Joshua Malina, I love that man.
Yeah, of course, he's in that, isn't he? Like it's I love if you because I think American President is like 97, 98, and it's clearly like it's almost like a pilot for this
Yeah.
show. It's like Sorkin saying like, no, what we can do is I can give you rom com, I can give you straight comedy, I can give you a bit of slapstick, good actors, and I can make American politics seem super interesting and very, very compelling. Where politics has been like sort of a thing that like, people run away from, and I think it's like okay, I can make it seem really, really cool, and he does because that
Hmm.
film is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
So talking about Sorkin monologues, that speech at the end that Michael Douglas does,
Oh,
and
he
it's
just writes a really good speech.
he does. I mean, have you seen the movie Malice with Alec Baldwin?
No, it's on my on next on my queue.
There you go. I can't remember if it's any good, but Sorkin wrote it, and it has one of my favorite Sorkin monologues, which is someone like Alec Baldwin plays like a. This is like Alec Baldwin early '90s when he's just sex on legs, just like slicked back black hair, big blue eyes, just like gravelly voice, gorgeous. And so he's being, I think he's doing a deposition because of doing some unnecessary surgery or something. And someone asks him if he has a god complex, and he just gives this incredible monologue just about like being a surgeon and all that. And it ends with him saying, "You think I have a god complex? I'll tell you, I am God." I'm like, ooh, wow, that's really good.
It's
And
almost
just like,
as good as walking into a room and saying, "I am your Lord God."
yeah, that does seem to be a motif with Sorkin. It's like people just thinking that they're God, but that's good. I think going from first to last, like there wasn't tons of like callbacks to the first episode or mirrors. There was only the thing of like when Bartlett walks into the Oval Office the first time, he's on a cane, and I
Hmm.
think they just do that for both episodes. But there's no sort of like there's not a scene where Josh sort of looks out the window and goes, "Hey Donna, remember that time you brought me coffee 8 years ago?" There's like because obviously doing this and going first to last, sometimes a show will really go for that sort of. And I like them. I like them sometimes if they do like a really clever callback and they sort of do it, and sometimes it's really clumsy. But this show doesn't even bother. It's just sort of like, nah, whatever. If you watched it, you watched it. Let's just keep going.
Yeah, you got it.
Um, yeah, you got it. The fact that we're just in the White House should be callback enough.
Yeah.
I did like the thing of like, because like I say, I feel like Josh became sort of the main character after a while, and he had like, obviously the Santos plotline was mostly him, and obviously he had the love affair with Donna and all that. And I do like the fact that the first episode has Donna sort of being spoken to like shit by everyone, and she's bringing Josh coffee. And then the last episode, it's like, oh, you're the first lady's chief of staff. Here's your office, and it's just that gorgeous, massive, old ass office. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, so she's definitely come up in the world. That's
Yeah,
really good.
that look on her face is great.
Yeah, like she's like, oh okay, yeah. So we've all won something. So do you think this show? Because I did read a headline the other day of like Aaron Sorkin was asked like, would he revive The West Wing? And I was going to read the article and I forgot. Do you think this show could come back today?
I think this show has like kind of template that they could go and do every now and then, anytime.
Okay. How do you
Um,
mean?
do you know the show Foyle's War?
I think so. Is it like a detective show set in the Second World War?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's British, so of course it has a weird format. but
Cool.
but I mean,
That's what we do.
yeah, they only do it every couple of years. It's like only if like there's a story there, I guess. And I think that they can do that because I mean, you can set this kind of thing in the White House all the time.
Yeah.
It's like come up with some great situations for political strife or whatever, and then let them go. Just doesn't need to be 7 seasons long every time.
That's it. I mean, I think it does lend itself to like the Fargo method.
Yeah.
You have this is so you can have an episode which is an administration during some sort of crisis, and then the next season can be this is an administration trying to get reelected, and this is a Republican administration, and this is the first woman president, and so on. And just have like 8 or 9 or 10 episodes where you bring in a load of character actors and they just do the work, and you have some sort of like you could maybe change the time period and stuff like that. And because it's a like because at the moment the only things that are like this in terms of setting are like House of Cards and Scandal, and they're both very soap opera-y, murdery, duplicitousness and all that.
Yeah.
Whereas this show never, like there were some soap opera-y bits and there was some melodrama, but they sort of kept it about, like the thing about this show that I really enjoyed is that I felt like it made me smarter.
Yeah, well, and
like
like you said, there's melodrama in it, but I mean, nobody's getting offed every other week.
Yeah, Josh isn't like killing a senator and then having to cover it up,
Right.
And and there was no vote rigging and there was no stuff like that. Like when there was, like they killed that because they kill, I can't remember the character's name, but they do have to kill someone, don't they? But it's the he's the terrorist leader or whatever, and they have him sort of offed on the side, and that sort of causes some problems. And there was like loads of repercussions for that. It was like, this is a little bit shady to have like the CIA just murder a dude,
Yes, Abdul Sharif.
Thank you very much. And that hangs over them for a really long time, and like journalists are digging into it, and it causes loads of problems. Whereas obviously House of Cards, like Frank Underwood pushes someone in front of a train, and that's 2 episodes later we've moved on, and he's president.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like this show, like I say, made me smarter because it kind of did the work, and something would happen in a show and I'd be like, I do not understand a single word of that. I've got to work out what that means. And from this show, that's why I know what the Electoral College is, and that's why I am a pain in the arse for my friends during the election season. Because obviously, being in Australia, I'll go out and we're having a drink, and a friend will be like, these Yanks, these conventions, I don't know what it's all about. And I'm like, I'll tell you what it's all about. Do you have 2 hours? Let's do this. Right, everyone else, shut up.
Yeah.
I'm holding court now.
You may be a pain in the ass right now, but when they have a question.
That's it. So when someone says, Sean, what's the Electoral College? I'm like, I'll tell you what the Electoral College is. I just need to draw a map of America in salt on the table, and then we'll go from there.
All right.
So I'm pretty bad, but not that bad. Who was I think I've already asked you who your favourite character was, and you said Toby, I believe.
Well, I think Toby I'm the most like, at least.
Okay, that's good. That's a good one to be like.
I like Josh a lot, but Toby's the best.
Yeah, I think that in terms of like an ensemble, very good. Like, I think going back on the Sam thing, like Sam's character, it was that interesting because I think like his character hit a point where his plot lines, like Josh had sort of taken it. Like him and Josh were too alike. I think after a certain point, and that's why he had to go. And I think they did very well in terms of the ensemble, in the sense of like these were people who argued constantly, but there was genuine affection between them. They felt like they liked each other, even though a lot of the time they were shouting at each other.
Yeah.
What would be your favorite episode of this show?
Well, one of my favorite, at least, is Celestial Navigation. That's the one where Roberto Mendoza gets pulled over and they have to go and bail him out of jail.
I don't think I remember that one.
Really? It's in the first season.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what happens?
Well, he gets pulled over, basically racial profiling,
Yeah.
Roberto Mendoza. And they say that he was drinking, but I guess he apparently has a condition that if he drinks, basically it'll kill him. So he wasn't drunk. And so he's thrown up a stink and won't do a breathalyzer or anything like that because he's also a judge and they're trying to seat him on the Supreme Court. And
Ah, right.
so Toby and
And
Sam have to go and bail him out.
I know that sounds pretty good. Who plays Mendoza? Because I'm sure it'd be some sort of character
Yeah,
actor.
almost. What's his
It is
name?
almost, isn't
Yes,
it?
yes, it is.
It's a Dharma. Cool. See, that was something like whenever you see like sort of a character actor on a TV show, and I think to myself, oh, what do I know him from? Inevitably, I go on IMDb and I'm like, oh yeah, he was Senator so and so in The West Wing for two
They had
episodes.
the best guest stars.
They did. Like I remember Brian Dennehy was in it. Love Brian Dennehy, and John Larroquette was the guy with the cricket bat,
Yes,
and
and
Felicity
wanting
Hoffman.
little umbrellas in his drinks.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, I think they did that. I wasn't like Glenn Close wasn't
Yes.
she one of the Supreme Court justices?
She was one of them that they were going to put on there, and they put William Fichtner on at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Gary Cole was the
Vice
stupid
president.
vice president with the cowboy boots. Amazing. One of my favorite, not really favorite episodes, but favorite scenes was, I think the episode is called "Somebody's Going to Emergency, Somebody's Going to Jail,"
That's a good one.
and the Secret Service guy who CJ's in love with gets killed.
Yeah.
And when Bartlett finds out, and he's talking to Brolin, and he tells him the story, and then Brolin's just like, "Crime, boy, I don't know."
Oh, yeah.
And they have the conversation, and as Bartlett's walking out, he just like throws the lighter to his Secret Service guy, and he's just like, "Oh, and when you think about it later, crime, boy, I don't know. That's when I decided to kick your ass." And then he just walks out. Like, oh. And then I think the next episode is the debate, and Bartlett just crushes him in the debate,
Oh, yeah.
which is good. Yes, that. And I think everyone's favorite episode is Two Cathedrals, I think.
Oh, that's a good one.
Again, another insane Sorkin monologue. You know, that's Bartlett versus God. Fantastic. Just too good.
Well, and Kirsten Nielsen, the one that plays young Mrs. Landingham, just does a spot-on impersonation of Catherine Houston.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, just fantastic. Yeah, such a good show. It's definitely one of those shows that obviously I probably wouldn't, like you say, go back and watch it every year. But it's one that, like watching it last night, like watching that first episode, I don't feel like it's aged. Like it is still very strong. Like it's easy for Sorkin stuff to become quite affected and seem quite written. But it felt, I mean, obviously, because like the whole walk and talk thing has been, massively spoofed constantly, but it still is a very effective thing.
Yeah.
Like Leo just walking through the office and just schooling everyone. Brilliant. All about it. Love it. Anything you'd like to add? Anything about the West Wing? This is your chance to let your West Wing geek flag fly.
I don't know if I have any more flags to wave.
No more flags to wave. In terms of... Nope. I just started saying that. Didn't have anywhere to go. Here's one. Who, the escort in the first episode, I didn't get a chance to look her up. What do I know her from?
She's in House.
That's how I know her from House. I didn't even watch House.
I didn't
know her
watch
from
House either, but I know that she's in House.
There you go. She's... God, I think her name's Cuddy in House. I think that's how much the internet has sort of invaded my brain. I know the names of characters in shows I don't watch.
Well, I
So
think
that's
you're
pretty
right,
impressive.
and I don't watch it either, so.
It's very weird, isn't it? I think that's it. I think we've gone. Just want to make sure I just go through my notes. Do you know who they originally wanted to play Bartlett?
No.
There was like a big list of like big prestige actors, and one of them was Sidney Poitier,
Really?
which would have been amazing, but he asked for too much money.
I can imagine he did.
Yeah. And the original plan was to have Bartlett only appear in like 5 episodes a season. And then I think once they'd done the pilot and Bartlett has his baller as fuck entrance, they were like, yeah, he needs to be in every episode.
I know he wasn't going to be in it very much, and I know that Martin Sheen also really, wanted to do more. So, I mean, that all worked out.
It did, because he wasn't really, I think as well, like, it was a good sort of therapy thing for the country, because you had this idea of seeing what the president's job is like the unwinnableness of it. And I think that probably in a time when people couldn't understand why Bush was doing what he was doing, or didn't have any empathy for him. I think that probably helped in the situation of being there and thinking, yeah, but what if I was in the chair and I had to do these things,
Yeah.
and my advisors weren't as fun and cuddly as Bartlett's. Which, the one thing about this show that really, I guess, didn't break my heart, but sort of like made me sad, was when I looked to see who, like, because at the time I was like, God, that, like, Leo and Bartlett, their friendship, their relationship, I absolutely love it. But then when I looked, and like Bush's chief of staff, and he had like 9 chiefs of staff, and they were just people who worked in the White House. Like, I thought it was going to be like his best friend, and that
Isn't
was a
it
whole
supposed to be?
thing. Yeah, it's supposed to be like, you've got do you have a friend? Is he smarter than you? He's your chief of staff.
Exactly.
Like,
I was going to say there's a line in the West Wing, and there you got it.
yeah, that's it. It's like, I've known Bartlett for 40 years and all that. It's like, no, it's just some dude who wants the job. Like, that's okay. That's made me really sad now. I thought that was a thing. And that's it, I think. I think that is the West Wing done and dusted, covered from top to bottom. Okay. I will just say the Mrs. Santos, because I didn't catch her first name, is a character I absolutely loved. And I also loved Stockard Channing. So I think I have a thing for the floatuses.
Yes. Well, those are some nice ones to take a gander at. So
that's it. Oh, also, sorry, one last thing. POTUS. I think it's very interesting, like the joke of like the first 5 minutes is not understanding what the word POTUS is.
Yes.
But it's interesting that is now such a cultural thing, whether from the West Wing or from the fact. I mean, Obama's Twitter is at POTUS.
Right. I think I listened to another podcast that does each of the West Wing episodes. And they did the first one, and apparently POTUS did become really big after that first episode.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's interesting. POTUS and FLOTUS. Yeah, because I think that's a great opening in terms of like, I said it before, like it's snappy character work. It's almost like a short film.
Yeah.
It's like they could show it as a thing of like, this is what it's like to work at the White House, and just fantastic. Just a great show. A great show that I think over the course of 7 seasons probably had 2 out of 7 that were shite. And the rest were strong. And even one of the ones that was shite had Jason Isaacs.
Yeah, I was just going to say 5 and 6 weren't good, but Jason Isaacs.
So there you go. That does elevate. So that's good. So I think, on the, in terms of like a presidential run, pretty good. Pretty good. Okay, so Sheila, where can people find you on the internet if you want to be found?
Oh, well, pretty much just Twitter. It's Giddy1313.
There you go. Cool. Now, is that from Mad Max, Miss Giddy, or was that just a coincidence?
It's not. It was actually my screen name since high school, and
there you go.
And Mad Max stole it.
Okay. Aussies, what are you going to do with them, eh?
Well, I love them, so there you go.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, no. They're a delight. Too many snakes, but it's fine.
And spiders. I'll give you too many spiders.
Yeah, the spider thing is, because me and Ryan on Twitter get into this quite a lot about the animals here, and he's right. I live in the city, and there's still, like, I'll go into the bathroom, and there will be a spider the size of, like a teacup, sat on the top of the toilet, and I'm like, oh, another one? Get rid of it. Like, that's interesting. I've actually become desensitized to that. And when my parents came to visit, we went on a bit of a tour and went on a bit of a road trip, and everywhere we went, there'd be a sign, be wary, snake area. Like, oh, come on. Just waiting to see a snake. And never did, but, I was there with my mum and my wife, and they were both sort of like shielding me. It's like, okay, we'll go a little bit ahead. Stomp your feet when you walk, and that scares them away. So there I was, like 32 years old, just like walking through the woods, like big bow legs, doing these big steps. And it's the worst.
That sounds all right. I don't do nature anyway, so.
Oh, you'd be fine then. Like the city is pretty good.
Yeah, I'll just stay inside.
Yeah. I did bump into a possum in the car park of a hospital once, so it is a weird life. Anywho, as always, you can find me at From First to Last Pod, and you can email me directly at fromfirsttolastpodcast@gmail.com. There's still 1,000,005 shows to pick, so please get in touch. Sheila literally just sent me a message on Twitter and said, can I do the West Wing? This is your first ever podcast appearance?
Well, I've been on No Totally a couple of times, just their like, call-in shows.
Oh, okay.
But
Well,
you're the first, exclusive.
there you go. See, first, but probably not the last, because you did really well.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Awesome. Well, anyway, thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
And yeah, my name is Sean Fallon. This has been From First to Last. Goodbye.